Egghead Hockey here. Today we're going to be talking about Olli and how it looks like he may be a black ace for the Vancouver Canucks in the 2020 NHL Playoffs. But before we get into today's video, if you do go on to enjoy it, please consider subscribing. It will really help me out, especially in this current time as we're trying to hit 400 subscribers. And if we hit 400, this probably won't happen, but before the end of July 31st, I'm going to do a face reveal. But we are 25 subscribers away, so chances are that won't happen. But each subscriber still does help, and it'll be really cool if we can hit 400 subscribers. Anyways, let's get into the video. So, firstly, let's talk about why this is kind of an important Canucks topic, as not all of you are diehard Canucks fans, so you might have kind of lost interest in Olli Juolevi. Olli Juolevi, of course, as most of you can remember, was the 5th overall pick in the 2016 draft, which was a very good draft. And he is yet to play a single NHL game until yesterday, but even then, that's not a regular season game. And in 4 years, that's not good. But recently, in this past year or so, he has been gaining some traction. And recently, in this training camp, he has been gaining a lot of traction. This year, he put up very solid numbers in his injury-shortened AHL year with 25 points in 45 games, which is pretty decent. And he's not necessarily an offensive defenseman. He's a two-way player, but he can put up very good offensive numbers. But it's not his main trick. During the year, everyone had the approach that we had to take our time with Juolevi and remember that he's our long-term project. And then, suddenly, after some news came out, our approach completely changed. When the playoff rosters were announced, I noticed, to my surprise, Olli Juolevi was on the official roster as a defenseman. At the time, I had already made a video that day, so I put it aside. But yesterday, we had the exhibition game where the Canucks actually played Juolevi. So Juolevi was actually competing for a spot, and he actually had a chance. This is like the Nick Robertson thing. I don't think it was an experience thing. And at the surface, as a viewer, just watching a Canucks game, he looked good for Juolevi, but nothing special compared to most NHL defensemen. In my post-game show, which you guys should check out, it is long though, so I'm not forcing you to do anything, I did acknowledge him and talk about how he still has a shot at actually cracking the lineup in the playoffs. And that was actually before I started looking at clips, highlights, Twitter, and other researching things. Then I started to realize Juolevi was actually a lot better than I said. I sort of underplayed him. He was still nothing too special, but he looked like he could genuinely be a 6th NHL defender, which is pretty good for him. It's a pretty big jump, considering he sort of went from a long-term 1 to 2 year project to being potentially and most likely NHL ready in the next season. Yes, the idea of him playing next year was always there, but it has gained a lot of traction recently, especially after yesterday's game. Coach Travis Green said this about Juolevi: "I was really happy with Olli. Thought he did some really good things, settled in, and played well. This looks pretty promising." The fact that Juolevi was actually getting some praise from the coach is very promising and good. And yes, Green was asked what he thought about Juolevi, but he wouldn't have spoken positively. He would have spoken neutrally if he didn't think he played that well. And we come to a point that I raised in my post-game show on Juolevi. Juolevi played meh compared to other NHL defenders, but the meh for him is exceeding his expectations and probably the way Fantenberg played. The meh is still NHL level. It's NHL meh. Sorry, that was a weird sentence, but you get my point. And Fantenberg didn't really play that good. He doesn't have that high expectations either. So Juolevi's meh is better than Fantenberg's not that good. And does this super confusing description mean that Juolevi has a fighting chance? I think so. I think he definitely has a fighting chance. And I'd even say, just because the way he played last night and because of the positivity that is now surrounding him, I think Juolevi has the skill upper hand and a somewhat invisible, somewhat community upper hand. Juolevi exceeded the expectations, so the coaching staff will think positively about him. And Fantenberg did not. So the staff won't have much to say about it. And positive is over neutral and negative. And basically, Juolevi is the talk of the town. So it kind of seems like, because of the circumstances, Juolevi has the invisible upper hand right now because of the positivity. And I think because the way he played and because of just all the positivity, I think he'll play in the playoffs. Now, let's look at some tweets to see what the Canucks community thinks about this. Also, in future videos, I want to incorporate tweets, Reddit posts, Discord posts, and more into my videos. So if you want your opinion or quote to be featured in a video, join my Discord chat, link in the description. It's the top link, and I'm also going to create a special rank for the people who provide news and other info to me as soon as they see it. And this rank will be called Insider, so keep your eye out for the rank. Anyways, let's get back into the video. So one tweet that really caught my eye today was a tweet from the Large Cast. In this tweet, they give some letter gradings to the whole Canucks lineup. And if you look around, you will see that Olli Juolevi has an A. And that is the best ranking on this tweet, tied with Michael Furland and Brock Besser. And according to this tweet, just based off the ratings, he was the best defenseman last night. I wouldn't go as far to say that Juolevi was our best defender. I think we're a little excited about him, and we're kind of overrating him. He was good, but despite last night not being a great night, he wasn't our best defender. I think he exceeded his own expectations, but if you're rating them all on like an equal standard, I don't think Juolevi should be our best defender. No one really stood out last night, but Juolevi seemed to stand out because he was a focus point, but really skill-wise, he wasn't that much better than any of the other solid defenders like Quinn Hughes and Chris Tanev. Now, let's look at some more tweets, and a lot of these tweets have a similar point to what I think. And the first one we have here is from Crew Frank. In this tweet, he says, if Juolevi was auditioning for the 60 spot, I think he wins it and Fantenberg sits. I agree with this somewhat. I think Juolevi was probably better than Fantenberg last night and has a higher chance of playing. But there are a couple more factors, and there is one factor that I haven't talked about yet that I'm going to talk about after these tweets. We have a tweet here from Jabo Vancouver, and in this tweet, they are talking about 3 things they learned about last night. And one of those 3 things was Olli Juolevi may become an NHL defender sooner than later. I agree with this quite a bit. I think Juolevi took a big jump in the past year, and recently he has gone from long-term project to potentially being NHL ready, if not ready within months. Overall, we have a lot of positivity surrounding Olli Juolevi in the Canucks community. Yes, these are only a couple tweets and they're all positive, but to summarize the Canucks community up, most people, I'd say, are pretty happy with Juolevi. Juolevi has taken a big step just by playing that one game and showing a big audience what he can do. But if there's one thing that could take Juolevi out of the running for the playoffs is veteran experience. Both Jordy Ben and Oscar Fantenberg have playoff experience, and those are Juolevi's contenders. And Juolevi doesn't even have any NHL experience besides yesterday. And the Canucks, with their young roster, they're looking for veterans. So if Juolevi doesn't play the same in practices and maybe even gets a few games, he will probably get cut for one of these 2. Juolevi has to somewhat sustain his current level to beat them out. And right now, he does have the upper hand, and the community has confidence in him. So all he has to do is stay somewhat similar to how he played last night. He can maybe get a tiny bit worse, as some of you believe that he was the best defender last night. But otherwise, he can't regress too much, or he'll probably get taken out for the vets, as I know the Canucks are valuing their veteran presence. Obviously, the next game is an official NHL playoff game. So, the decision will have to be made at practice, and if it isn't, I think we'll probably see Juolevi play a game or 2 and hopefully stay. And if not, he'll get subbed out, and we could also see Fantenberg start and get subbed out. I think if I had to decide right now, I would go with Juolevi, even though he might be nervous. I can't really say I'm going with what worked, but he played well, and I think we got to put in whoever's best. But we have to keep the option of subbing him out open, 100%. Also, Travis Green seemed to be very impressed with the way that Juolevi played, and that's pretty promising, as if he liked the way he played, he probably would put him in, as they're trying to make the best lineup they can, and we already have quite a few veteran D-men, so if Juolevi is truly better than them, I think they'll play him, even though he might be nervous. But we have to keep the option of scratching him open, because young defensemen like that could get a bad experience if they end up playing well or getting lit up, because a lot of the blame could be forced on them and it could affect their development. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out a lot. And we're on the road to 400 subs, and every single sub helps. Anyways, until next time, bye.